Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we are going to be talking about the 5 lessons that we have learned from Barcelona's loss against PSG, which ended 2-1. Point number 1, Barcelona's high defensive line remains as a critical vulnerability. Barcelona's ultra high line under Hansi Flick was brutally exposed once again, and The Athletic also pointed out that our defensive line is much higher than ever before, and within the past 4 years. Remember how we talked about how last season maybe we need to drop a little deeper, maybe we don't have to produce such a high defensive line? Well, in this season, it does seem like Hansi Flick went the complete opposite, and he said, we're going to go even more. Our high line is going to be even higher. And of course, Barcelona do have to pay the price, because the winning goal on the 90th minute summed it up with Hakimi exploiting the acres of space. He slipped it to Gonzalo Ramos, and Barcelona's defensive line just couldn't recover. And I saw Hansi Flick's reaction to Hakimi being fully wide open, and he was just so furious. I kind of really want to understand, and I would really like to have a conversation with Hansi Flick and just ask him, like, what does he truly think about this high defensive line? What did he want Alejandro Balde to do there when he has orders to be so high up the pitch? I really want to know that, and hopefully maybe somebody in the press conference can ask him that during the next pre-match press conference for the match against Sevilla. But look, this system does help when it comes to pressing, recovering the ball, but it leaves Barcelona open in fast counters. I'm not going to say that this is just like an all bad type of system, because Barcelona are scoring more than ever. We're getting the best out of many of our players, even with Marcus Rashford, who came out with an assist in this game. But in the end, when a coach sees a weakness and they implement their own defense well, they can possibly beat FC Barcelona. Luis Enrique knew this before the match, and he said that Barcelona attack, press, and play a very high defensive line, and he's a huge fan of that. I do think that when he said he's a huge fan of Barcelona's high defensive line, he was probably saying, I'm a huge fan of this because I know how to tackle this and I know how to get the best out of my own players for this game specifically. So PSG executed that game plan to perfection when it mattered the most. Point number 2, it is the mental resilience and the squad depth that defined these two teams. PSG were missing Dembele, Cavara, Marquinhos, and Doué, but they showed why they're champions. They showed why they were able to defeat all of the teams in the last season to get to the Champions League final. It's because they refused to settle for any sort of draw or loss, and they showed that they have pushed until the very last minute against FC Barcelona in this season. So with the exact same hunger, Gonzalo Ramos, fresh off the bench, scored the winner. That's called quality depth and knowing how to use your players. I'm not saying that Hansi Flick does not know how to do this, because we have seen him use bench players very well. But in this game, PSG got the upper hand. Point number 3, just because you have players who can produce individual brilliance, it does not mean that those individual players don't need to defend. Because let me tell you, Lamine Yamal was electric in the first half. You saw what happened in those first 2 minutes. He was running through 5 PSG defenders. He even continued to make these trifecta, whatever you call those passes, those trifecta passes with his left foot, leaving it to either Ferran Torres or somebody like Marcus Rashford constantly over and over again. He was amazing in those first 15 to 20 minutes, but defensively, Lamine Yamal was not at his best and he did not do his job. In PSG's equalizer, when you replay that goal, you can see Lamine Yamal walking in the midfield while Nuno Mendes charged forward to create Mayulu's goal. Flick has warned this, and we talked about this before. He warned this in the pre-match press conference, and he stated, it's not just about how good you are with the ball, but you also have to work it defensively. So this lesson is very clear. Magic moments do need to be matched with defensive grind at this level. I don't care if you're Messi, I don't care if you're prime Maradona or Pelé or Ronaldo Nazario, whoever, does not matter. You must go down and defend for your life. I'm gonna go back into this conversation in just a few minutes when it comes to like hustling and defending and really fighting for the badge. I'll talk about that in just a few minutes again. But going to point number 4, PSG's tactical evolution and their new era under Luis Enrique is very much real. Like for example, PSG did start off shaky and struggled under Barcelona's early press, and they even conceded first, but they grew into the game with patience and maturity. So even with a depleted 11 with so many injuries, PSG repeatedly punished Barcelona's high line. No matter what, this system that Luis Enrique has created, it's clicking. There's total tactical awareness, there's total patience within all players, total structure. Every player knows what they need to do. They're very committed, they're willing to fight for the badge, and they're never going to stop. These are qualities that we did not see before Luis Enrique came. Even with Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar being in the front 3, that PSG side does not nowhere near match the PSG version that we see today. It's all about what Luis Enrique has been able to do, and I applaud him for that. Going on to the last point, which is point number 5, Barcelona's 45 game scoring streak does mask our defensive flaws. Every time there's a post-match press conference and we concede a lot of goals, or maybe we lose or tie a match, we always hear one of our players saying that we scored well, but we have to improve in defense, or we clicked well in the final third, but we made some errors at the back. It's always about that. It's always about those type of conversations. Frankie de Jong in this game admitted during the post-match press conference, and I quote, PSG were sharper in the attack and we have to improve. That is basically it. Like, yes, we have won 45 straight games, but there are cracks in this team that needs to be covered. This first defeat of the season, it is a reality check, and to compete at the elite level, we have to fix this, or else it's gonna take us far. Like, we will go to either the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the Champions League, but the moment we face a team that shows true collective team effort, we will fall. That's just the reality. Just like how we fell against Inter Milan. They scored 7 goals against us. We scored 6, but they scored 7. So all in all, Barcelona's defense has to catch up to their attack, and I don't know if this has something to do with changing the system or bringing in the players that Hansi Flick is demanding, because Hansi Flick wanted Jonathan Tah for a reason, my friends. He wanted him for a reason. Maybe it's because of the experience, because of his athleticism, but the fact that we have failed Hansi Flick on bringing him the players that he does want, of course, maybe this could explain the reason why these flaws are showing. Hansi Flick wants specific profiles at the back, very specific. Like, you can say that all in all, like when you round up Araujo and Eric Garcia, Araujo is the better defender. Before this game, Hansi Flick still chose Eric Garcia because Eric Garcia knows how to distribute the ball. He knows how to play under pressure, and maybe Flick does need that. Maybe Flick needs a center back to play either next to Kubarsi or to play either next to Eric Garcia that is tall, strong, athletic, and able to play with the ball under pressure. We have to find that, and let me know in the comment section down below, what defender do you see fits that category out there in the world of football that we could get maybe in January, or maybe just wait until the summer of 2026 and work with Eric Garcia, Kubarsi, Christensen, and Ronald Araujo. So now I want to make this last bonus point, and it's going to be a long one. I want to go back to what I talked about on how these players need to hustle, that they need to track back, that they need to press, they need to constantly never walk and always run. There are 3 players that Barcelona do have that did not feature in the squad list against PSG that would have helped us a lot, and those 3 players could have been Raphinha, Fermín López, and Gavi. Those 3 players, it is Raphinha, Fermín López, and Gavi. These 3 players have one thing in common. One, can you guys name it? Let me help you. It is about fighting for this badge. They have the team fighting spirit. They do have that. Gavi, Fermín, and Raphinha, they're always going to run. They're always going to track back. They're always going to be that box-to-box midfielder if you need them to. Even if it's Raphinha becoming the box-to-box midfielder, he will do that. These absences that Barcelona had, it really mattered in this game because Raphinha, right? Let's talk about him first. He is the pressing machine. Flick himself even stated, Raphinha always starts the pressure. His dynamism and energy, it is essential. And let me ask you guys this. When we saw Barcelona press from the front against PSG, who was the one player that was leading the press? Can you guys name him? I don't think so. I don't think that we can name that one single player that was leading the press. It wasn't Rashford, it wasn't Olmo, it wasn't Yamal, and it wasn't Ferran Torres or Lewandowski when he was up there. Nobody did it like Raphinha did. Raphinha is special for a reason, and we need him back as fast as possible. He leads La Liga in attacking touches in the central third, which is a total of 172. He has had a total of 118 runs in behind in just 7 match days. 36 more than Kylian Mbappe, by the way. Covers the full pitch for 90 minutes while he does the relentless pressing. Ranked in number 2 in La Liga for 1v1 index and offensive 1v1 index. So without him, Barcelona lacked the trigger for their press, and PSG built up very comfortably. Looking at Fermín López is the box-to-box fighter. His defensive work rate, it is insane. He is in the 70th percentile when it comes to defensive contributions for the attacking midfielders and wingers. His high defensive duels per 90 plus elite positioning is one of his best traits. He's exceptional at curved pressing runs and even shadowing his marker. Comfortable in the right half space while staying defensively disciplined. His dual threat, right, in the 84th percentile in shots per 90 plus strong defensive metrics as well. And in this game, his pressing intelligence could have cut off PSG's quick transition, and especially cut off Vitinha's ability to receive the ball. Then moving on to Gavi. He is the relentless engine. We all know what Gavi can do. Very much like Fermín López, but maybe with Gavi, he is the better footballer. So like even with him, right, having limited appearances this season, his defensive numbers are elite. 2.77 tackles per 90 puts him at the 89th percentile. 13.85 ground duels per 90 places him on the 91st percentile. His absence left Barcelona without their midfield anchor in high intensity matches. I would have loved to see, right? I would have loved to see Barcelona end their game against PSG, not with Bernal, Casado, and Frenkie as our trio, but with Frenkie, Gavi, and Fermín. That would have made much more sense if you were to have taken off Pedri. Once again, I understand why Pedri was taken off. He was fatigued, he was tired, Hansi Flick needed to rest him, but we needed better alternatives. I'm not here trying to bash on Bernal or Casado, right? I'm not trying to say that they're trash and that they should not belong at FC Barcelona, but when you have Bernal in the midfield, you want to accompany Bernal with Pedri and Frenkie. If you have Casado in the midfield, you do want to accompany him with Frenkie and Pedri, or maybe Frenkie and Gavi. But when you have Bernal, Casado, and Frenkie working together, that is a whole other different story because these 3 players never played together ever before. Bernal just came back from injury, Casado has barely played, has no momentum, and Frenkie does not have the experience to play with Bernal and Casado. 2 players who are not even true 10 10s. It would have worked a lot better in the midfield, and maybe we could have tied the game or maybe even win the game if we ended with Frankie and Gavi double pivot with Fermín López as the number 10. So we need these three players as fast as possible and get them into the season. Raphinha also needs to return. I'm not going to be too rushed on Raphinha's return actually, because when you think about it, Marcus Rashford has done phenomenal. I think that the way that you can have Raphinha and Marcus Rashford play together, because Marcus Rashford has done enough and he is good enough, is to have Raphinha on the right wing position in case maybe Lamine Yamal is not feeling it, like he's not giving you the defensive efforts. Or maybe you can have Raphinha as the number 10 with Yamal on the right, or maybe you can have Yamal as the number 10 with Raphinha on the right wing position, leaving Marcus Rashford on the left. All in all, having Gavi, Fermín, and Raphinha would have brought the spirit and the fighting spirit to FC Barcelona in those last 30 minutes of the game. It could have changed the goals that we have conceded. Fermín's positioning plus dual intensity could have tracked Mendes' run way better. You look at the way that Ramos scored the second goal. Raphinha's pressing plus his 118 recovery runs could suggest that he could have stopped Hakimi progressing before he even reached the final third. Like, who was marking Hakimi in the second goal? It could have been Raphinha. Raphinha could have been there, and you guys know that. So all in all, that is going to be my takeaways for this game. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.